Good day, dear first year students. Today we are going to do another sonnet by William Shakespeare. Yesterday we did a poem, Let Me Not to the Marriage of True Minds by William Shakespeare. And today also we are going to do another sonnet by William Shakespeare. And the name of the sonnet is When to the Sessions of Sweet Silent Thought. This is again a Shakespearean sonnet consisting of 3 quatrains of 3 lines, 4 lines each, and a couplet of 2 lines. So, I will read out to you the stanza and then explain the meaning. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sigh the lack of many a things I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. Now the poet is saying that he is sitting all alone and a session is going on in his mind, a session of old memories, session of sweet silent thought. Silently, thoughtfully, he is sitting in his room and a session of thoughtfulness is going on in his mind. I summon up remembrance of things past. So when this type of session is going on in his mind, he summons up. Summon means call. Remembrance of things past. He calls past memories. So notice the legal diction in the poem. The words like session, the word like summon. Summon is different from a normal call. You can deny or disobey a normal call, but summon. We use this word in the language of court. Summon is a call which you cannot deny, which is punishable if you deny it. So, when to the sessions of sweet silent thought, I summon up remembrance of things past. The poet says that he is in a silent and thoughtful mood, and then he is calling up memories of past things. I sigh the lack of many a things I sought. So when the poet is in a sad and thoughtful and pensive mood, he sighs the lack of. Sigh means he feels sad about the lack of many a things he wanted to have but he could not. In our lives also, when we reflect, when are we sad, when we remember that there were many things which we wanted to seek, which we wanted to have, but we can't achieve all our desires. So he says, I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought. So when he is in a thoughtful mood, when he calls all the memories of past things, he sighs. He feels sad about the lack of many things which he wanted to achieve but he could not. And with old woes, new wail my dear time's waste. Woes means sorrows, sad happenings. So he is crying not about any recent loss or a recent sorrow, but he is crying, he is wailing on the old woes. Old woes means the memories of old sorrowful things. New wail my dear time's waste. New wail means with a fresh attitude, he is in a fresh manner, he is wailing. He is feeling sad about his old woes. The woes are old, the sorrows are old, but he is feeling sorrowful in a fresh manner, new way. My dear time's waste. Now here, these words, my dear time's waste, they have 2 meanings. He says that I have wasted my time twice. How twice? First of all, when he wanted to have those things which he could not achieve, he wasted his time because he could not achieve, because the result was nil. And now again he is wasting his time by weeping on those old woes. So, we move on to the next stanza. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow, for precious friends hid in death's dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and mourn the expense of many a vanished sight. Now he says, when I am in such a sad and sorrowful and thoughtful mood, and I am crying on those things which I wanted to seek but I could not have, I weep for my dear time's waste. So, when there is such an atmosphere in his mind, he says, then can I drown an eye unused to flow. Then I drown my eye. Now, here is a hyperbole. Hyperbole means exaggeration of facts. Now, the poet uses hyperbole when he wants to emphasize a point, when he wants to put stress on any point. So he says, then can I drown an eye. Drown in what? Drown in tears. So when such a session is going on in my mind, I drown my eyes in tears, unused to flow. See the contrast. The eyes which were not in the habit even of flowing, they are now drowning in tears. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow. So, because generally it is said that men don't cry, though it is just a social taboo, useless social taboo, but men, it is believed, and it was believed in those times also, that men can't cry, or men don't cry rather. But he says, then can I drown an eye. So when I am in a sad, sorrowful mood, and when I lack the loss of many things, then my eyes begin to flow, means I start weeping. And what does he weep for? For precious friends hid in death's dateless night. Beautiful line. He says, I weep for precious friends who have died, hid in death's dateless night. His friends are hidden in death's dateless night. So he compares death to a dateless night, to a calendar whose date never changes. Date changes when night is converted into morning, but death had the date of death. The death does not have any date. The date does not change. The night of the death is never converted into morning. It means that some of my friends have died and I cannot find them again. Why? Because it is dark. Because it is darkness of death in which they are hidden. So they cannot come back to life. So I feel sad, I feel sorrowful about those precious friends who have died, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe. He says that he weeps afresh. Afresh means in a fresh manner. He wept then and he is weeping now also. So he says, weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe. It seems as if he loved a woman and that woe is long cancelled. Means he has not remembered that woe since a long time, and he has almost forgotten love's long since cancelled woe. Weep afresh. In a new, fresh manner, he cries about the loss of his love, and mourn the expense of many a vanished sight. And moan. Notice the words weep, moan, sigh. He says, mourn the expense of many a vanished sight. Expense means those sights are vanished from his life. He says, I mourn the expense of many a vanished sight. There were many sights of my life which were very dear to me, but those sights have been wiped out from my life. For example, the sight of your childhood. For example, maybe the sight of your house which was there in village. Maybe now due to new developments that old house is no more. This is just an example, and sometimes we feel very sad about those sights which are permanently removed from our life. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell over the sad account of fore bemoaned moan, which I knew pay as if not paid before. Then he says, when I am in such a sad mood, then can I grieve at grievances foregone. So these sorrows, these sad happenings are not recent. They are they are a part of the past memories, but today when he remembers them all over again, he cries once more. Then can I grieve means then can I complain at grievances foregone. These grievances, these complaints are not new, they are not fresh, but they are foregone. But still he is crying over those past grievances in a fresh manner. Heavily means with a heavy heart. Whenever we cry, whenever we feel sad about the loss of anything, we experience a heavy heart. So he says, heavily from woe to woe tell over. From woe to woe, he imagines that there is a book of his sorrows, and each chapter contains, or each page contains, a different woe. Woe means a different sorrow. So he, from woe to woe, from one page of sad thing to another page. So he says, from woe to woe tell over the sad account of fore bemoaned moan. So we have to imagine a book of sorrows, and on each page a sorrow is written, and he is turning a page of sorrow after another sorrow. So from woe to woe tell over the sad account. And what is it? It is the sad account of fore bemoaned moan. Now people who have studied commerce, or it is just a general thing, that we know that what do we hold accounts for? In order to keep an account of borrowed things, in order to keep account of lent things. But this sad account of sorrows, the payment is never fulfilled. Why? And what is the payment? The payment is tears. Because every time he remembers a sad happening, every time he has to cry. Generally what happens when we borrow something, and when we return that thing is erased from the account. But the sad account of sorrowful happenings, they are not erased from the sad account. So he says, fore bemoaned moan. Moan means cries. I have already cried over all these things, but today again I am crying over those past things, which I knew pay as if not paid before. So every time he opens the book of sorrow, or every time he opens the sad account of his woes, every time the balance is shown, and the balance is never nil. Why? Because every time he cries, he closes the book, and whenever he opens the book, sad account, again the dew is shown. And what is the dew? The dew is his tears. So this dew is never fulfilled. So he says, which I knew pay as if not paid before. I pay all the rent, or I pay all the interest in the form of my tears as if I have not paid before. But the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end. Now, you see, by reading the 3 quatrains of the poem, we feel that it is a sad poem. The poet is feeling very, very sad. And naturally, he is feeling sad. But when we read the last 2 lines, we come to know that he is trying to strike a balance between the sorrows of his life and what joy he has, what precious thing he has in hand. In the end of the poem, he says. So he says, but the while I think on thee, dear friend, he says that it is true that I have a lot of complaints against my life, and I feel very sad about many things which I wanted to seek in my life but I could not seek. And I feel sorrowful about my dear time's waste. I feel very sad when I remember my old friends who have died, whom I will never meet again. And when I remember my lost love, my lady love, then also I feel very sad. I feel sad on the expense of many sights which have been permanently vanished, erased from my life. So when I remember all these things, I feel very, very sad, no doubt. But the mood of the poet changes in the last 2 lines. In the couplet, he says, I know that there are many sorrows, many grievances in my life, but if the while I think on thee, dear friend. Now notice the contrast. He was in the sad mood, but he says, the while means the moment I think about you, dear friend. Now who is his dear friend? The fair youth. This is the fair youth poem whose identity is unknown. So he says, given that all these sorrows torment me, disturb me, perturb me, but the moment I think on you, dear friend, dear fair youth, what happens? All losses are restored and sorrows end. Beautiful ending of the poem. He says, all losses of my life, all those losses about his lost lady love, about his dead friends, about the vanished sights, about many things which he wanted to have but he could not. But he says, all losses are restored and sorrows end. The moment I think on you, dear friend, I feel that God has made a balance. He has given me a lot of sorrows in my life, lot of things to weep upon. But He has given me a very good, true and loyal friend as you. And you strike a very beautiful balance between my sorrows and my achievement. So what is the achievement of my life? What is the joy and what is the happiness of my life? My friend. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end. So this is the end of the poem, and now I'm going to discuss with you the very important aspect of the poem, that is the legal diction. The whole poem uses legal diction in its language. Now, what do you mean by this term diction? Diction is the word by which the word dictionary is framed. And what do you find in a dictionary? Words and words and words. So diction basically means words, terms. So a lot of words from the legal terminology have been used in this poem. And not only legal diction but legal images also. For example, the word sessions. This word session is used in the language of court session. We say the word summon. Summon does not mean a normal or ordinary call, but summon is a serious call of court which we cannot deny. Then the word like account, grievances. This is also a word used in courts. Expense. Then pay, paid. And again the word restored. Generally what happened? If a loss is done to one party, the court asks the another party to restore the losses. So the word restore is also from the diction of the legal language. So let us have a quick recap of the poem. The poet says that sometimes he is in a very sad and silent, thoughtful mood. And in such a pensive mood, what does he do? He calls a lot of past memories. And generally, his past memories are comprised of sorrowful happenings. So he says, when I am in such a thoughtful mood, I feel sad about many things which I wanted to have, which I did not have, and I weep afresh. I weep and I feel sorrowful about those sad happenings in a fresh manner. And with old woes, new wail. The woes, the sorrows are old, but his tears are new. Every time he thinks on his sorrows, he feels sad and he starts crying. My dear time's waste. And he realizes that he has wasted his time twice. How twice? First, when he wanted to have those things which he could not achieve. Secondly, when he is thinking upon those losses of his life. He says that at such a point of time, my eyes are drowned in tears. We all know that nobody can cry in such a manner that his eyes are drowned, but it is a hyperbole, a beautiful hyperbole, where the poet wants to say that he cries heavily. Then he remembers his precious friends who have died, who will never return. Then he remembers and he feels sad about his lost love. And he also feels sad about many precious sights of his life which have gone forever. And then he compares his sorrows to a sad account. And he turns one page to another. And on each page, one or the other sorrow is written. So he is turning the pages of the sad account of his sorrows. And he pays that account. How does he pay his account? Not by money, but he pays that sad account by tears, as if not paid before. So naturally he has cried for those things before also, and today he is crying again. So this is a very strange account which does not show a nil balance. Whenever he opens the account, there is something due. And what is that due? The due is his tears, his moanings. But in the last stanza he says, but if the while I think on thee, dear friend. Now suddenly the mood of the poet changes and he says that I know that there are a lot of things about which I can feel sorrowful, and about which I can feel sad in my life. But the moment when I think about you, dear friend, that I have got your friendship, I have you as my friend, dear fair youth, he says, all losses are restored, all the losses of my life. I feel that they have been restored. I feel that I have got a very good, fair compensation for them, and all the sorrows of my life end. Thank you.